Wait. For session one, first I'd like to invite Manoj Mishra ji to say a few words. Manoj Mishra ji is a former forest officer and he is presently the convener since 2007 of Yamuna GA Abhiyan, and he's a member of the India Rivers Forum organizing committee, and he's part of the steering committee of Water Conflicts Forum. So I invite Manoj ji to introduce all of you to India Rivers Week, to India Rivers Forum, and kick off the proceedings. Over to you, Manoj ji.
Thank you. Thank you, Siddharth. Uh, on behalf of the organizing committee of India River Week and Manthan Adhyayan Kendra, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this 9th edition of India River Week. When we first began in 2014, India Rivers Week was a joint effort of 5 Delhi-based organizations, namely Indian National Trust for Art, Culture and Heritage, INTAC, South Asian Network for Dams, Rivers and People, Sender, WWF India, Toxics Link, and Peace Institute Charitable Trust. Later, 5 more organizations, namely People Science Institute at Dehradun, Sopecom at Pune, Veditam India, Kolkata, ATRI and Indian Institute for Human Settlements at Bengaluru, have become part of what is now commonly called as the India Rivers Forum. It's a national level platform for river matters in the non-government sector. And India River Week is an annual event of the India River Forum. Now, each India River Week has been focused around a specific theme. We began with generic themes like rivers in crisis, state of India's rivers, urban rivers, governance of our rivers, etc. And then we graduated on to specific themes like, can India rejuvenate Ganga? Is sand mining killing our rivers? And last year we had healthy rivers, fish and fishers. This year the India River Week theme is rivers as waterways in India, Bane or Boon. This year, India River Week is being held by India River Forum in close association with Pune-based Manthan Adhyayan Kendra, who in the non-government sector hold the most domain knowledge on Indian Waterways program in the country. Since 2020, India River Week has been an online event, just like all other webinars, including this year's event on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hopefully, and it's a fond hope, that next year onwards, we would be able to go back to a normal physical event. This year, unlike the last 2 events, when IRW was spread over 5 different weekends during the months of October and November, we are experimenting with 5 sessions spread over 2 days, today and tomorrow, which is in the last week of November. Normally, that is the week when India River Week has been annually held. We at India River Forum have also endeavored since the very beginning to recognize and celebrate unsung river heroes, namely people and organizations in the country who have done commendable work on rivers. We award them what is called as the Bhagirath Prayas Samman, BPS, which carries a cash prize of Rs 60,000 and a memento. Since 2017, when unfortunately we lost Shri Anupam Mishra ji, Chairman of the Bhagirath Prayas Saman jury, we have instituted a medal in his memory called as the Anupam Mishra Memorial Medal, which is given to a media professional who has extensively reported on river issues. This year, both BPS and AMM award shall also be given away tomorrow during the final session of this event. I welcome you all once again and thank you for joining. Now, I request Parinita ji to kindly moderate the first session of India River Week 2022. Parinita Dandekar is a veteran river researcher. She has been working on rivers with Sender for the past 11 years. Her areas of interest include free-flowing rivers, riverine ecology, and the riverine cultures. Please, Parinita ji. Thank you.
Namaste. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Manojji, for the introduction to this entire event, which has been going on for so many years. I think it is singular, being one of the event which highlights rivers in India. There are hardly any such programs happening. So it is my honor to be here and to introduce a very fantastic panel today. I'm really excited about the panel. The name of the theme for this India Rivers Week is Rivers as Waterways, Bane or Boon. Did we not have water transport in our rivers before? We have had a very long tradition of water transport in our river systems, but converting rivers into waterways is something which is only happening right now, even in the term of converting rivers into waterways. Most of our epics and also epics around the world, in these epics, boats, riverine boats and boatmen have always played a very pivotal role. So from Ramayana, Mahabharata, Noah's Ark, and to so many folk tales, we have had nishads and boatmen who have played the most pivotal role in the story. We have had riverine boat culture is extremely rich in almost all parts of the country with bigger or even smaller rivers. And the panel today also reflects this diversity of riverine cultures across the country. In India, in Bengal, the land of rivers, it is said that a riverine boat is a symbol of Deha Tattva, which is a vessel, a literal vessel to take us to the divine, which is the river in this case. What I'm trying to say is that riverine transport, not only as a form of transport or commerce, but riverine transport as a form of science, as a form of culture, as a form of art, has been happening in India in South Asia for a very long time. And today's panel actually reflects the rich tradition of riverine transport that India has had. And I think it is a fantastic starting point of how we are now looking at waterways as something novel when it is not. What are the novel aspects of these waterways is something which the researchers and activists and the people on ground and on water will be throwing light on today. So without further ado, I would like to invite the first panelist. Just a few housekeeping suggestions. You can ask questions at any time of the presentation, but please make sure that you are on mute. Please do not unmute yourselves. It is very disturbing, as we all know. We've had long experience of Zoom by now. Please put your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box, preferably in the Q&A box. And we will try and take the questions in the question answer sessions or after the presentation is over. So with this, I would like to introduce our first speaker. It is really wonderful for me to introduce her because this also marks the beginning of how things have been changing. When I started working on rivers, I wouldn't have thought of people working on specific aspects like riverine transport. But here we have brilliant young people who are actually working on this issue for years now. So it is my pleasure to introduce Avli Verma today. Avli is a researcher from Manthan Adhyayan Kendra, and she's been studying the development of inland waterways in Indian rivers for the past 5 years, which is, I think, fantastic. She's done her MPhil in Planning and Development from IIT and MSc in Environmental Sciences from JNU. So, Avli, over to you. We are really looking forward to listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Parinita. I'll just share my screen. Hi, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. So in my presentation, I'll be talking about National Indian Waterways Program in India, and I'll be giving an overview of key issues and concern and the current status of National Indian Waterways Program in India. I wanted to start my slide with what Parinita has already explained in terms of how rivers have been used as a mode of transport for centuries. But that sort of transport was mainly done using the rhythms and the seasonality and the characteristics of the rivers. And now with the National Indian Waterways Program, what we are seeing is that rivers are now being converted into waterways to transport large sort of commercial goods. Just to give you an overview of the natural waterways in India, the proposed national waterways in India, this is the map showing all the national waterways which are declared with the National Waterways Act 2016. So in India now there are 111 national waterways, and this is with the previously 5 declared national waterways which are there on Ganga, Brahmaputra, in the rivers of Odisha, Krishna and Godavari, and also on the West Coast Canal in Kerala. It's interesting to note that although 111 national waterways are declared in one go in 2016, it is from the reports of Inland Waterways Authority of India only that we got to know that 63 of them are actually non-viable for cargo or for tourism or for passenger transport, which is stark, which means 50% of the newly declared national waterways are not usable for such purposes. Only 26 of them are found viable for cargo and passenger movement, and development activities so far have been initiated on only 13 national waterways out of the 26 viable national waterways. The national waterways are sort of declared with the claims that these are cost-effective, environment-friendly, and sustainable mode of transport. The environment friendliness is only based on the greenhouse, the savings on the greenhouse emission part, and not on the impacts, which are also not very adequately assessed so far in Indian domain in the underwater domain. These are also claimed as a safe mode of transport for hazardous cargo, and other claims such as these will relieve the traffic congestion, these will lead to less number of road accidents and more of employment generation are sort of the claims with which this project is being pushed ahead. The point to note here is that not every waterway which is declared as national waterway becomes environment friendly or cost effective by default, which will the sort of aspects of these things we'll hear in the upcoming sessions. In terms of primary requirements of converting a river into a national waterway, the first and foremost sort of requirement is water, which is to be ensured by different sort of diversion tactics so that water remains available in the navigation channel for at least 300 days of the year. Then you need a navigation channel depending on the capacity of the vessel that you want to transport on the rivers. And that navigation channel on an average has to be 2 to 3 meters of depth and 45 to 60 meters of width on average. And this requires intrusive interventions like dredging, bandaling, river straightening. In addition to this, you need associated infrastructure which will come up on the floodplains, on the banks of the rivers, and these not only being terminals and storage facilities and parking slots and approach roads, but also freight villages and big logistics parks, which are sort of proposed in areas such as Varanasi and Sahibganj for National Waterway 1 at least. If we look at the scenario of cargo movement on national waterways so far, what we are seeing is that main sort of cargo movement is concentrated on some of the operational national waterways, and these being mostly driven by the waterways of Maharashtra and Gujarat. So the national waterways of Maharashtra and Gujarat are mainly the key drivers of the traffic on the national waterways. Around 80% of the traffic on national waterways comes from these sort of national waterways which are there in Gujarat and Maharashtra, mainly the Tapi River in Gujarat and Dharamtar Creek and Revadanda sort of creek in Maharashtra. But the point again to note here is that these are mainly high volume of cargo movement, which are carried over very, very short distances, around 17 kilometers on an average. And only these stretches are being used intensively. And these stretches are the stretches which are tidal and estuarine in nature. And these are also the most productive and biodiversity rich stretches of rivers on which I'll show the sort of commodities which are getting transported. But it is important to know that these are the sort of productive rich stretches of the rivers which are now converted into sort of waterways for cargo movement. Other waterways which are driving the traffic in terms of overall national waterways in India is of course the Ganga waterway, some part from Brahmaputra and National Waterway 3, which is on the West Coast Canal. But most of the movement, for example, on National Waterway comes from the commodity such as fly ash, which is only getting transported between West Bengal and through the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. And most of the commodity which is transported on National Waterway 3 is mainly chemicals. If you're looking at the percentage of commodity share on national waterways, it comes out to be coal, which is the dominant sort of commodity. And this is just for reference. If you go back and look at this sort of data for even previous years, it's mainly coal, iron ore, fly ash, which come out as dominant sort of commodities which are getting transported on the national waterways. And even if you look at the others sort of section, most of it would be fly ash and fuel oil and chemicals and fertilizers which are getting transported, and very small quantity of commodities which can be categorized as animals or vehicles which are used by local population are there on the national waterways so far. If you're looking at the transboundary sort of nature and how waterways are planned so that there is connectivity between the neighboring countries, this is the map which depicts the connectivity using the national waterways. And in 2018, there was this joint statement between India and Nepal, which mainly said that there would be increased new sort of connectivity which would be provided to Nepal, which will give it access to the sea using the National Waterway 1 and also through waterways on Gandak, on Kosi and Gandak and Ghagra River. This National Waterway 1 is also important in terms of providing connectivity to Bangladesh. And through this Indo-Bangladesh protocol route, this sort of connectivity between National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 2, which is between Ganga and Brahmaputra, is proposed using this Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. Similar sort of connectivity is sort of provided through National Waterway 16 here in Barak River. And other sort of connectivity plans are there, which are mainly between Bhutan, which uses most of its cargo using trucks and all, using the roadways. it transfers mainly stone till the Dhubri sort of terminal here. And from here, it is converted and used through the waterways, and it's transported through the waterways in Bangladesh. Similar sort of connectivity through the Kaladan project is proposed between Myanmar and Bangladesh and India. So I've already, I think, explained mostly part of it, but in terms of institutional arrangements and infrastructure arrangements, these sort of things are already in place. For example, for providing connectivity to Nepal, there is a special terminal in Kalughat, which is getting constructed, and this would only be handling the cargo, which is going to get transported to Nepal. Similarly, what we are seeing on the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route, it's from 2015 onwards. If we see the trends, it's the around 95 to 97% of all cargo which is sort of transported between India and Bangladesh is mainly fly ash. And similarly, Bhutan, these are mainly used by stone exporters. And again, Kaladan, both these sort of connectivities through multimodal sort of usage of transport with a mix of waterways and roadways. Having said that, till now, and this is a news from May 10th, 2022, there are sort of reports which during the pilot movements for such connectivity, this connectivity is between Haldia to Guwahati, which is to say that this is to provide connectivity between National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 2 on Brahmaputra using the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. And there was a report which was given by the Kolkata Port Trust, which mainly said that the whole transportation is with lots of problems. But unfortunately, that report is not in the public domain so far. We have only seen a news report, and in spite of filing RTIs, this report is not being revealed. When we talk about the environmental and social aspects, we see that the most important activity which is going to be used continuously for the transportation of big barges through the rivers is going to be dredging, which is cutting the riverbed or excavating the sediment from the riverbed to provide the maintenance fairway. And this includes a lot of environmental impacts, and we'll discuss more of it in session 3. But these impacts are really, really serious in terms of turbidity, noise, especially in the underwater domain, and destruction of the aquatic habitats. And these impacts are even more severe when these happen in the eco-sensitive regions. And there are also impacts due to emissions from the vessels, leakage, oil spill, accidents, etc. And also impacts due to the construction of associated infrastructure, like terminals, jetties, etc. for handling and storing of bulk and hazardous cargo along the rivers. This is just to give an example that an incident happened in October 2022, where more than 10 catters and 2 to 3 people died due to the dredging activity which took place in Bhagalpur in Bihar on the Ganga waterway, because the flow of the river suddenly changed. It's also important to note, and I'll discuss more on it in session 4 tomorrow, that the dredging and almost all aspects of inland waterways are given exemption from prior environment clearance in December 2017. When we look at sort of other sort of impacts because of its associated infrastructure, a case in point is this multimodal terminal which was inaugurated for National Waterway 1 in Banaras. And if we look at this multimodal terminal, and you can see how empty it looks, so far only 3 or 4 vessels have been handled on this multimodal terminal. But there are now notices being sent for forceful land acquisition. A compulsory land acquisition is announced now, and it was announced in the PM Gati Shakti multimodal conclave in one of the sessions of this conclave. And we'll hear more about it in session 3. But in terms of emerging new interventions on natural waterways, are these seaplanes. Many of these are proposed on many of the national waterways in India, including one on Brahmaputra on National Waterway 2. But if you look at this new sort of intervention, which is a plane which can land on water, to make it possible, around more than 100 crocodiles were shifted. The whole process of environment clearance was bypassed. Blasting was done in the river Narmada, but in spite of doing so much to make this sort of service available to people, the actual services remain stalled. They are actually full of suspensions and maintenance sort of difficulties to run these services on the rivers. We've already seen between 2020 till now around 7 accidents of fly ash laden barges which capsized in the river Hooghly. And these are toxic cargo which are getting spilled in the river. And I'll discuss again more on this in the session 4, but just to give you an idea that so far there is no sort of accountability fixed on who is responsible for these accidents. Similarly, we've seen so many of the safety concerns in terms of news reports coming from near miss involving barges in Kochi, and National Waterway 3 in Kochi is mainly for chemicals which are getting transported through the West Coast Canal. And now we are seeing even water metro coming up in National Waterway 3. So there is a genuine concern for safety on the national waterways. Similarly, this incident in Assam, which is also a recent incident where a ferry got stuck in the middle of the Brahmaputra, is something that needs attention. In spite of all of these happening on the side, national waterways are also getting promoted, because this is the announcement for the world's longest cruise, which launched on 11th November. And this longest cruise in the history of India, it will mainly take 52 days to cover more than 27 river systems in India between Varanasi and Dibrugarh, mainly crossing National Waterway 1, Indo-Bangladesh Protocol route, Sundarban Waterways, and the National Waterway 2. And this is an important sort of intervention, which again is happening without any independent scrutiny. On top of that, the promoter of this whole exotic and luxury river cruises in the country, he's appointed as a chairman of the West Bengal River Tourism, driving the policy for river tourism in the state. In terms of river cruises, we also need to look at maybe interventions which are there, and especially from the perspective of artificial light and emissions and other sort of externalities which are there, which are not assessed in the Indian domain adequately and widely so far. This is just a tender document, and we have to rely on the tender document because there is no comprehensive sort of information which is given on these sort of emerging interventions which are coming up on the rivers. And although in the conclaves, in the conferences, people talk about virtual sort of navigation system which is coming up, but we are seeing these sort of tenders which talk about lighted posts, so many in numbers, and these are going to come up in unlit sort of areas of the rivers, and especially in eco-sensitive regions. And this is a tender for the Sundarban Waterways, accessed in June 2022. And this is also important because it's not only for cargo sort of transport. This sort of night navigation is also a demand from the river cruise industry, voiced in different conferences which are done to promote river cruises in India. If you look at the silver line of this whole project, the only sort of thing which was to correct the imbalance between what is happening for the in the interest of private players and what is proposed for the growth of farmers, small traders and villagers along the rivers. This project of Arth Ganga, the concept of Arth Ganga being used in the Jalmarg Vikas project phase 2, was something which was a welcome step. And we've recently seen the inauguration of 7 community jetties in Banaras, But the thing is that these sort of jetties, there is no report, first of all, for how these jetties are proposed, what is going to happen, who is going to implement these, how have they assessed the need for these sort of jetties. And this is the sort of picture of this community jetty, which was inaugurated on 11th November, just 2 days after. We can see it, it's not even connected to the river. There is a Nagar Nigam boat which is mainly taking the sand out of the stairs which are connecting to the river bank. And we can also see that there was no understanding and usage of these jetties which are now lying on the bank of the river in the places which I mentioned here.
Sorry, Alvi, sorry to disturb you. Last 2 minutes.
This is my last slide. This is just to show you that this is the sort of these sort of things which are coming up on the river are sort of also um, uh, dividing and even increasing the sort of conflict between the traditional use of rivers and the commercial use by private players. So here you can see this is a party barge, which is and a river cruise also, which runs on the rivers of Banaras. In adjacent to the already flourishing traditional sort of boat operations which are present in the Banaras region. So just summarizing, there are environmental impacts, social impacts. There is very, very less public participation and awareness about these projects. And there is a lack of sort of transparency also in terms of providing reports. We have no idea about the Jalmarg Vikas project, phase two of this, which is coming up with community jetties, etc. We're only getting to know about it from the tweets and the tenders and this thing. There is no consolidation of information, and which is being put out by the Inland Waterways Authority of India proactively. In fact, whatever was the information which was given out earlier, now even less of it is available in the public domain. And there are questions of financial viability which will come to know about in the session 2. And these are some of the reports that we have worked on, and also the link to the website if you want to know more about this thing. I think I'll end here. Thank you, Parinita.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ali. That was a fantastic presentation. Right from we came to know of a number of things, right from the longest cruise to waterways transporting mainly coal and iron ore and fly ash, from the death of so many cattle and farmers to a party barge to lighting up the eco-sensitive area of Sundarbans. There are just way too many questions, and I think one thing is for sure that whether or not these things have an impact or not needs to be studied. And when something like this, something so big, something so vast, is exempt from any sort of scrutiny, may it be social or environmental or financial, that is never that can never have any good implications. Thank you again, Ollie, for the presentation. I would like to invite the panel now. This is a it's a unique panel, very fantastic panel, because we have representation from almost all the, well, at least the geographical stretches of the country. And we have small scale fishermen, boatmen, which I'm sure who have, who are the link of the beautiful stories that we have always heard. So we have PP John from Kerala. He's from the Swatantra Matsya Toza Lali Federation. Sorry if I got that slightly wrong, which is working towards rejuvenation of backwater and inland water bodies in Kerala. KJ Joy from Sopecom would be helping us understand and translate a bit, though I'm sure it will be self-explanatory. Then we have Swarup Bhattacharya from Kolkata. I'm delighted to have him on the panel. Swarup is actually called as a boatman of Bengal, so it's very great to have him there. Just a few days back, he worked with the traditional boat makers in Bengal to actually put together a traditional boat on the Rupnarayan River. And again, it links and highlights the links between the fisher folk and the boatman and the boat arena that we had, which is completely. And in inland waterways, we only see the impacts of this on the fisher people, when traditionally it was completely linked. We also have with us Prithwinath Sahaniji from Dashashwamedh Ghat, which is fantastic. He is a senior leader of Mallas, the traditional boat owners. And Mallas and Nishad, the stories go back to Mahabharata, so it's an ancient time and lineage. He's also the active member of Ma Ganga Nishad Raj Seva Trust. Then we have Yogesh Upadhyay with us, who's a researcher and currently a Smithu Kothari Fellow. He has done MAs from South Asian University and has joined IIM Ahmedabad as an academic associate. And he has worked with Himadhara and to understand the impacts of large dam and navigation. He's also had a lot of travel and field experience under his belt. So I would really love to invite all the panelists to start the discussions. Please have your presentation for 10 minutes so that we have ample time for other speakers as well as for the Q&A which follows the discussions. Once again, audience, please put in your questions in the chat box, in the Q&A box preferably, and we'll get back. If you have like a really burning question, you can raise your hand and we can possibly get to you. Also, keep yourself muted throughout the presentations. Thank you. Can we have the panel together? So,
are we inviting everyone together, or
we can start off with PP John. I've introduced him with John, sir, can we start with you?
Joy, would you like to help us communicate?
I think he's also
സംസാരിച്ച് തുടങ്ങിക്കോളൂ. Hello. I think his audio is not connected. That's what I've been seeing.
Okay, so shall we start off with Swaroop and then come back with
I think
Mr. John so that he can... Right.
He has to fix his audio.
Okay, so he can check his audio. Possibly someone can help him with his audio settings. And Swaroop, can we start with you then?
1 second. John sir, the audio on the owner lana തോന്നുന്നേ. അതൊന്ന് കണക്ട് അപ്പം നമുക്ക് അത് ശരിയാവുന്ന വേറെ ആൾ സംസാരിച്ചോളൂ.
It's connected.
It's connected. It's connected now.
Great. Wonderful. Then we can start off. Thanks.
And Parinita, should I put the text for John sir on the
Yes,
screen?
please. If you can put it on screen, that will be helpful. Yes.
I'll do that. So maybe once he starts, then I can put it.
Yes, thank you.
John sir, സംസാരിച്ച് തുടങ്ങിക്കോളൂ. അൺമ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യൂ. കേൾക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. അൺമ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യണം. ഇപ്പൊ മ്യൂട്ടിലാണ്. Or Siddharth, can you unmute him?
I can only request. I've already sent a request to unmute, but the unmuting will have to be done at their end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. John sir, സംസാരിച്ചോളൂ. ഹലോ സംസാരിച്ചോളൂ.
ഉണ്ട് എന്റെ കാറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്. മാത്രമേ നമ്മൾ പ്രസംഗിക്കുന്നത് ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ കാറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്.
ഹലോ
തിരക്കി എവിടെയെങ്കിലും മാറാം. 31 ഒന്ന് വിളിച്ചേ ഒന്നുകൂടെ ഒന്ന്.
ഹലോ
സ്പീക്ക്.
ജോൺ സാറെ തുടങ്ങിക്കോളൂ. ഹലോ, ജോൺ സാറിന്റെ സ്പീച്ച് തുടങ്ങിക്കോളൂ.
ഞങ്ങള് റെയിൽവേ സ്റ്റേഷനിലെത്തി.
ഹലോ, ഹലോ.
Shall we give him some time to settle with his presentation and start off with Swarupda right now?
I think please do. I'll try to talk to him on phone and see what's happening.
Yes, I think he would need some help with. Yes. Siddharth, can you mute him? We can start off with Swarupda right now. Swarupda, can we start with your presentation? Hello.
Yeah.
Good to
Thank
see
you
you.
so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to show some photographs and information to share some information with you regarding our Bengal birds. I'd like to share my screen now. I think all are visible now. Yeah,
Yes,
my
we can
slides.
see it. Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about the Waterways Bengal perspective. The place where I'm living, where I born and brought up, is the landlocked country, not landlocked country. It's a riverine in nature. So many rivers with so many tributaries, with numerous water bodies formed that part of the Bengal. We have the river, we have the Nod, Nodi, then Haur, Baur, Khal, Bil, Pukur, and so many other smaller water bodies. And all those small water bodies, we have different kinds of boats. Sorry. So,
Swarupda, would you be comfortable?
Yeah. I think it's fine now. That is the water bodies, that is the rivers. And we have different water transport all over Bengal. One water transport which goes along the river, and also another type of water transport which connects two banks. That was the situation in earlier days when in a long stretch the watercraft can pass from one area to other areas with various cargoes and passengers. Nowadays, hardly there is any such long distance water transport system, except in Sundarbans. We call this now the water transport as Kia, when it goes from one bank to other, which cross the river. So we have that water transport carries mainly people as well as various commodities. Earlier, that was the stretch of our river. In North Bengal, there are numerous water bodies with different nature. That means the North Bengal rivers are low depth and wide, whereas only one directional current is flowing, so from north to south, whereas the rivers of South Bengal, it's in two directional. In the high tide, it goes from south to north, and in low tide, it's from north to south. One thing is very important. Pudinta has already mentioned that the boat makers, who are those? They are distributed all over Bengal where the boat is there. So There, the boat makers mainly came from our lower strata of our society. They are mainly Namoshudros and Theors and Rajbongshis. They are the fisherfolk community, mainly involved in boat making. And they follow a custom, it's called Guru Shishya Parampara. That means a boat maker, a chief boat maker, used to transform his knowledge of boat building to his disciple. This is the system. That means it's not a family tradition. It means any person who is interested to build a boat, he can join with his guru. Then guru will teach him uh, through by practice, by practical, he can get the information, he can do it, he can do the boat building. Then after, he will be again a guru in few years. So in this way, the Guru Shishya Parampara is still continuing. We have those ferries, we call it Kea, but nowadays they're very less in number because of many reasons. Because of the, we lost the water in the river, we have the metal roads, we have the bridges and so many other things. But still, these are very economic. One has to remember that the water transport is the cheapest and easiest way of transport, and also ecologically very important. That means it's less polluted. We have different, still now, we have different types of boats, and each of the typological variety, we have different name. This is the boat, we call it, they call it a shalti. Shalti means it's a boat made of shal tree. No, nowadays they do not make any boat with the sal or Shoria robusta tree. But nowadays they build those boats with local variety of boat, local variety of wood. Still, one such shalti is I observed, and it is the only shalti in Sundarban region which can carry various concrete material like sand, bricks, and cements to different parts of the Sundarban region. Unfortunately, we lost that tradition. It's a boat full of paddy or straw. That was used to carry straw from Sundarban to Kolkata. But nowadays, that straw is no longer used in Kolkata. Only the little bit, whatever they use, it transported by truck. So we lost that tradition. We have not only lost that tradition of boat, but it's a wonderful boat with different technology. It's called Khoro Kasti. Kasti is the Arabic term, and Khoro means it's derived from khor, the straw. So a boat which carries straw is called Khoro Kasti. And Kasti is different types of boats with skeleton built technology. We know in Bengal that traditional technology is shell built, where the hull of the boat is to build first. But here, the skeleton built technology, where the ribs are put it first, and then the outer planks are fitted. So it's completely different one, and I think this is the technology we have taken from other parts of the world, maybe from Middle East or maybe from Europe, because we know the place of the origin of that boat is on the mouth of the Ganges. Mouth of the Ganges means where the Tamralipta port was there, and where by which route the foreigners and Arab and other merchants used to visit Bengal. It's another boat with the same skeleton built technology that is called Sultani. So we have also lost that sail structure, but that Sultani boat is still continuing. Another boat, we call it Betnai. It used to carry the timbers from Sundarban, and a leaf called Nipa fruticans. We call it golpata. But unfortunately, due to the forest rule, we cannot collect any such leaf and timber. So that kind of boat called bethnai is completely lost. This is the boat, we call it panshi. Panshi in earlier days used to carry salt from Khidirpur port to different parts of Bengal. But nowadays they are using sand to carry sand from one area to other. Mainly the sand from the Ganges, they are removing it and distributing it for various purposes. We know that that kind of cargo is very much which was earlier, but now it is very not frequent. It's very less. But still, I know that this is the earthen materials, the pottery. They still use that kind of boat to carry from one place to other. That means they knows that the pottery goods are very fragile. So in a boat, it can go safely along the river. So for some purposes, some boats are still employing to carry those potter goods. We know in earlier days that boat was also used to carry vegetables to Kolkata and in other regions. Not only in Kolkata, we know along the river there are haats. Haats means it's a weekly market, and gonjo. Those are the big places for market. Those are connected with rivers, and big boats used to cater the service there to come to dispatch the vegetables and other things to those markets. But we know that these are the boats still are using for carrying bricks and other things in Kolkata. Not only in Kolkata, in Sundarban and in any other parts of the Bengal, still they are carrying different types of what is called the bricks and other things. Earlier,
Farooq, the very it's I'm feeling very bad to interrupt you in between, but you have 2 minutes left. If it just
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just like to show some photographs. It is our with our culture. The boat is in our culture, the Bengal culture. And in Bangladesh, we have that boat as a symbol of a party. In lower regions, in Ghatal and other places, boats are used as a bicycle. Yeah, in every household, they would like to keep one boat at the time. And yeah, you know, this is the boat with reverse clinker technology, and that is the coastal fishing boat. We call it Patia, and it has technological development of more than 1,000 years. I can tell you about the history of 1,000 years related with this boat. And in Bangladesh, that was the situation in 1990s, with full of sails, colorful sails. These are the sails of boats are also used as pleasure. It's sometimes a sport in Bengal. We call it bike khela. We that due to dams and other things, we lost the water of river. So bridges are connecting instead of. One thing very important, that this is the native place of a boat called Patia. But unfortunately, due to the tourism activity and the development activity, we are putting boulders on the shore. So instead of keeping in mind that the boat, the actual place of the anchoring of the boat, we are putting those boulders and we will lose our boats soon. So this is the situation of Bengal now. In many rivers, the siltation, you have to cross that river to catch those boats. Unfortunately, there is one boat museum in Kolkata, and these are the boat models. And still people are using those smaller boats. They think this is their Moikonki, this is their Bajra, or this is their luxurious boats. But those people, those who are the fisher folk, they still rely on those smaller traditional crafts because they think as long as water is there, their craft will be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swarupta. It's as always, it's a pleasure to look at the information that you've collected over so many years. I think this documentation itself and looking at it visually is really, it's fantastic. So thanks a lot for your presentation. There are a number of questions for you. We'll take all the questions together in the Q&A session. Also, if we have some time left, you can possibly go through some of the visuals if people are interested. I'm hoping that Mr. John is now connected, and we can start with his presentation now. He's, we have to keep in mind that he's in the middle of travel, so we are very thankful that he could still make time to present and to be a part of these discussions. Joy and Mr. John, can we start off?
John, sir, yeah, hello. Yeah.
I am starting.
Pardon.
Okay. കേരളത്തിലെ നദികളും ജലഗതാഗത മാർഗങ്ങളും എന്ന സമകാലിക സ്ഥിതിവിശേഷത്തെ കുറിച്ചാണ് എനിക്കിന്ന് പറയുവാനുള്ളത്. അത് കേരളത്തിലെ 44 നദികളുണ്ട്. പശ്ചിമഘട്ടത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ഉത്ഭവിക്കുന്ന 44 നദികളിൽ 3 എണ്ണം കിഴക്കോട്ടൊഴുകുന്ന 41 നദികളിൽ നിന്നും പടിഞ്ഞാറോട്ടൊഴുകി കായലുകളിലും അറബിക്കടലിലും പതിക്കുന്നു. പുരാതന കാലത്ത് നദികളിലൂടെയായിരുന്നു പ്രധാന ജലഗതാഗത മാർഗങ്ങൾ. കർഷകർ അവരുടെ ഉൽപ്പന്നങ്ങൾ കച്ചവടം നടത്തുന്നതിന് നദികളിലൂടെ വഞ്ചികളിൽ കമ്പോളങ്ങളിൽ എത്തിച്ചിരുന്നു. നദീതീരങ്ങളുടെ സമീപപ്രദേശത്തുനിന്നും അക്കാലത്ത് വാണിജ്യ കേന്ദ്രങ്ങൾ കടൽ കടന്ന് കേരള പെരുമ ലോകത്തിന്റെ വിവിധ ഭാഗങ്ങൾ എത്തിച്ച സുഗന്ധ വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങളിൽ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ടതാണ് കറുത്ത പൊന്ന് എന്നറിയപ്പെടുന്ന കുരുമുളക് ആയിരുന്നു. കടലാക്രമണ റോഡ് കാലക്രമേണ റോഡ് ഗതാഗതം ചരക്ക് നീക്കത്തിന് പ്രധാന മാർഗമാകുകയും ജലഗതാഗത മാർഗങ്ങൾ അപ്രസക്തമാകുകയും ചെയ്തു. എന്നാൽ ജലപാതകൾ വിനോദസഞ്ചാരത്തിന് ചരക്ക് ഗതാഗതത്തിനും ഏറ്റവും ചെലവ് കുറഞ്ഞ മാർഗമാണെന്ന തിരിച്ചറിവ് വീണ്ടും ജലപാതകളിലേക്കുള്ള വഴിത്തിരിവുണ്ട്. 2005 മുൻ രാഷ്ട്രപതിയായിരുന്ന APJ അബ്ദുൽ കലാം കേരള നിയമസഭയിൽ കേരള വികസനവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ദർശന രേഖ അവതരിപ്പിക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. അതിൽ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട നിർദ്ദേശങ്ങളിൽ ഒന്ന് സ്മാർട്ട് വാട്ടർ വേ ആയിരുന്നു. തിരുവനന്തപുരം മുതൽ കാസർഗോഡ് വരെയുള്ള ജലപാതയാണ് അബ്ദുൽ കലാം മുന്നോട്ട് വെച്ച സ്മാർട്ട് വാട്ടർ വേ. കേരളത്തിലെ സഞ്ചാരയോഗ്യമായ 1548 കിലോമീറ്റർ ജലപാതയുണ്ട്. ദേശീയ ജലപാത വികസന നേതൃത്വം നൽകുന്ന ഇൻലാൻഡ് വാട്ടർ വേസ് അതോറിറ്റി ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ 1993 കൊല്ലം കോട്ടപ്പുറം ദേശീയ ജലപാതയായി പ്രഖ്യാപിച്ചു. കൊല്ലം പട്ടണത്തോട് ചേർന്ന് കിടന്ന അഷ്ടമുടി കായലിൽ നിന്നുമാണ് ദേശീയ ജലപാത തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. 168 കിലോമീറ്ററാണ് ഇതിന്റെ ദൂരം. ദേശീയ ജലപാത ആണത് തിരുവനന്തപുരം മുതൽ കാസർഗോഡ് വരെ 611 കിലോമീറ്റർ ദൂരമാണ്. നിലവിൽ കേരളത്തിലെ ദേശീയ ജലപാതകൾ 4 എണ്ണമാണ്. ദേശീയ ജലപാത നമ്പർ 3 കൊല്ലം കോട്ടപ്പുറം 165 കിലോമീറ്റർ. ദേശീയ ജലപാത നമ്പർ 8 ആലപ്പുഴ ചങ്ങനാശ്ശേരി. ദേശീയ ജലപാത നമ്പർ 9 ആലപ്പുഴ 28 കിലോമീറ്റർ. കോട്ടയം അതിരമ്പുഴ 38 കിലോമീറ്റർ. ദേശീയ ജലപാത നമ്പർ 51 കോട്ടയം വൈക്കം കനാൽ 28 കിലോമീറ്റർ. സംസ്ഥാന ജലപാതകളായി ഇവയാണ് കോവളം കൊല്ലം 74 കിലോമീറ്ററും അതുപോലെ തന്നെയാണ് കോഴിക്കോട് ബേക്കൽ 9 കിലോമീറ്റർ. 1990 93 ദേശീയ ജലപാതയായി പ്രഖ്യാപിച്ച കൊല്ലം കോട്ടപ്പുറം ദേശീയ ജലപാത 240 കോടി രൂപ കേന്ദ്ര എന്നാൽ 2007 ഉദ്ഘാടനം ചെയ്ത ലക്ഷ്യങ്ങൾ അതിന്റെ ഉദ്ദേശ ലക്ഷ്യങ്ങൾ ഇന്നും പൂർത്തീകരിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. എന്നാൽ ഇതുമൂലം ദുരിതം പേർന്നത് അഥവാ തൊഴിലിടങ്ങൾ നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട ഒരു സമൂഹമുണ്ട് എന്നാണ് മനസ്സിലാകുന്നത്. ഇതിനൊരു ഉദാഹരണം പറയാം. ദേശീയ ജലപാതയ്ക്ക് 32 2.2 മീറ്റർ ആഴവും വേണമെന്നാണ് നിയമം. ആഴം വർദ്ധിപ്പിക്കുമ്പോൾ നീക്കം ചെയ്യേണ്ട മണ്ണ് എവിടെ നിക്ഷേപിക്കുമെന്നത് ആണ് പ്രധാന പ്രശ്നം. അഷ്ടമുടി കായലിൽ ചവറ തെക്കും കായലിൽ രൂപം കൊള്ളുന്ന പുതിയ തുരുത്തുകളും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മൺതുരുത്തുകളും നീക്കം ചെയ്ത് മണ്ണ് കായലിൽ തന്നെ ഉപേക്ഷിക്കും എന്നതിന് തെളിവാണ്. അതുപോലെ ചാല് കീറി മണ്ണ് കായലിൽ ഉപേക്ഷിച്ച മറ്റൊരു തുരുത്തും പാക്കുളം പെരിപ്പുഴ ഭാഗത്തുണ്ട്. അവിടെ കണ്ടൽ വനം വെച്ചുപിടിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടും അവിടുത്തെ വിനോദസഞ്ചാര കേന്ദ്രമായി പ്രവർത്തിക്കും. മേൽപ്പറഞ്ഞ പ്രദേശത്ത് ഇപ്പോൾ മത്സ്യബന്ധനം സാധ്യമല്ല. അറ്റമുടി കായലിൽ നിന്നും ദേശീയ ജലപാത ചവറ തോട്ടിലേക്ക് കനാലിലേക്ക് പ്രവേശിക്കുന്നു. ഇവിടെ ആഴം വർദ്ധിപ്പിക്കുന്ന മണ്ണ് കരിമണൽ ആണ്. ഇത് KML കമ്പനിക്ക് നൽകാമെന്ന് ധാരണയുണ്ട്. കനാലിന് ഇരുവശവും താമസിക്കുന്നത് ഭൂരിഭാഗവും മത്സ്യത്തൊഴിലാളികളാണ്. ദേശീയ ജലപാത അവിടെയും മത്സ്യബന്ധനം അസാധ്യമാണ്. മറ്റൊരു കാര്യം, ദേശീയ ജലപാതയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടി നീക്കം ചെയ്യുന്ന മണ്ണ് ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥരും കരാറുകാരും മറിച്ചു വിൽക്കുന്ന രീതിയുമുണ്ട്. ഇതുമൂലം കായൽ പല ഭാഗങ്ങളിൽ നികത്തി കരഭൂമിയാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ദേശീയ ജലപാത വികസനവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് അനേകം ചീനവലകളും കൃഷി ഭൂമി വലകളും മതിയായ നഷ്ടപരിഹാരം നൽകാതെ നീക്കം ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള വസ്തുതയാണ്. ദേശീയ ജലപാതയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടി നീക്കം ചെയ്യുന്ന മണ്ണ് കടൽക്ഷോഭം മൂലം കടലടിക്ക് എടുക്കുന്ന തീരദേശങ്ങളെ നിക്ഷേപിച്ചിരുന്നുവെങ്കിൽ തീരശോഷണം ഒഴിവാക്കുവാൻ ഒരു പരിധിവരെ കഴിയുമായി. കേരളത്തിലെ ആദ്യ ദേശീയ ജലപാത നമ്പർ 3 കൊല്ലം കോട്ടപ്പുറം പാത ഇന്നും ചരക്ക് ഗതാഗതത്തിന് പോലും കഴിയാത്ത സ്ഥിതിയാണ്. ജനങ്ങൾ ജലഗതാഗതത്തെ ഉപേക്ഷിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞു. അവർക്ക് യഥേഷ്ടം സഞ്ചരിക്കുന്നതിന് റോഡുകളുണ്ട്. റോഡുകൾ പാലങ്ങൾ ഇല്ലാത്തിടത്ത് മാത്രമാണ് ജലഗതാഗതം ഇന്നും തുടരുന്നത്. ഏറ്റവും ചെലവ് കുറഞ്ഞ ചരക്ക് ഗതാഗതം നടക്കുന്നില്ല. എന്നാൽ വിനോദസഞ്ചാരം ഈ മേഖലയിൽ ശക്തി പ്രാപിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതിന്റെ പ്രത്യാഘാതങ്ങളും സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നതിന് നിരവധിയാണ്. വിദേശ ലക്ഷ്യങ്ങൾ ഒരിക്കലും പൂർത്തീകരിക്കാൻ കഴിയാത്ത ദേശീയ ജലപാതകൾ നിർമ്മാണത്തിന്റെ പിന്നിൽ മൂലധന ശക്തികളും സർക്കാരും മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുന്നതിന്റെ പിന്നിൽ ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് ലഭിക്കുന്ന കമ്മീഷൻ തുക അഴിമതിയും മാത്രം. കേരളത്തിന്റെ ആവാസ വ്യവസ്ഥയ്ക്ക് മേൽ പരിസ്ഥിതി വിനാശത്തിന്റെയും നേർചിത്രങ്ങളായി ജലഗതാഗത മാർഗങ്ങൾ മാറിയിരിക്കും. ചരിത്രം മുന്നോട്ടാണ് പോകുന്നത്. പിന്തിരിഞ്ഞു നിൽക്കണമെന്നില്ല. ജലാശയങ്ങളെ ആശ്രയിച്ച് കഴിയുന്ന തദ്ദേശീയരായ മനുഷ്യരുടെ അതിജീവനം ഉറപ്പാക്കുന്ന ഏത് വികസന പദ്ധതിയും വിനാശകരമായി മാറും എന്ന് മറക്കാതിരിക്കുക.
Thanks a lot, John sir. It was we could see get a glimpse of what was happening. I'm sure John will help us understand it better.
I need to pitch in something, or you can continue what you want to do.
If you'd like to give us a summary, then that's fine, John.
I just
Otherwise,
take a minute or two. I think what John was trying to communicate was that the whole historical importance and historical development of waterways in Kerala, especially for the transportation of people and goods, and it had also connections with across the borders, especially for the transport of spices. And he specifically talked about what you call the black gold, that is the black pepper and things. And even now it continues to in areas where the connectivity by road and bridges are not there, where waterways still play the conventional waterways still play an important role in that. And he gave quite a bit of specific examples of the problems related to the way the national water basin is developed. One is that he raised the issue about the material that is excavated from dredging. Where are they going to deposit that? And very often it is left on the banks until that comes back, and that's impacting the traditional fishers, especially the type of, and also there have been incidents of they removing the nets, especially gill nets and other type of examples he gave. And many places, both the sides, the banks of the rivers or the canals in which being used, they're all fisher people who are depending on the rivers and the systems for their livelihoods and things. So that is impacting them. There's no compensation being given. Nets are being removed in an arbitrary manner. And also there are sort of areas with mangroves that is impacting the mangroves to some extent. There is extreme corruption and other things. The whole question of, he brought in the whole question of the collusion of the capitalist forces and the government enforcing these things. So there are various types of environmental impacts he brought in. So he says the way this has been developed, it cannot be for the development of the people or the rivers and other things. So one need to resist this. And it has a tremendous impact on the fishers in Kerala. I mean, that's a bit of summary.
Right. Thank you so much for summing it up for us, Joy. I think it's a very important example because here we can actually see what is happening on these states. So other states can take lessons from it. Something very similar is happening in Goa also. So a lot of examples, lot of similarities between what is happening in Kerala and Goa. From here, let us go forward. I would suggest that we should have Yogesh Upadhyay's presentation first before Prithvinath Sahniji's presentation. Yogesh, do you have your presentation ready? Can we start off with yours? Thank you. I'm
Yes.
sorry because of the issues. We are slightly low on time, so if you could be faster, it would be great.
But I wouldn't want my time to be crunched.
Let's see.
I'm going to keep my video off and I'll share my screen. I mean, rather, I was thinking of asking for more time. Anyway, we'll see. My screen is visible, I presume. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So, good morning, everyone. I want to open by acknowledging people who made this research possible. First and foremost, Shripad and Avli for giving me their time and guidance throughout the research. Center for Financial Accountability for selecting me as Smritu Kothari Fellow, which provided a channel to do this research. And lovely Banarasis with whom I interacted during my 10-day fieldwork in Banaras. Vaishnavi Rathore for providing me much needed emotional support, and my friend Kirti at IIM, who did my IIM work so that I can do this research work. My presentation is titled Two Tales of National Waterway 1. Can they be told together? So what are these two tales that I'm talking about? I'll go there, but before that, I want to talk about how I collected my data. So, and it is a work in progress, and soon, as also required by the fellowship, I will be writing an analytical article on the same. For this presentation, I used reports and press release from the Inland Waterways Authority of India and that of Ministry of Jal Shakti. I also refer to newspaper articles, mostly to support the given facts and arguments. To understand what is happening on ground, I conducted fieldwork in Banaras for 10 days and spoke with people on 13 ghats. My respondents include boatmen of various classes and political affiliations. All of them belonged to Malla community. Some were poor Malla fishermen, and then some were middle class also. Then ghat vendors, activists, farmers at Kethi Ghat, displaced people of Khidkiya Ghat who had been living there since last 35 or 40 years. A Baba at Khidkiya Ghat who had been living there since the last 25 years. Two Ganga Prahari leaders who are like BJP people only, and they were leaders. And Professor V.N. Mishra from IIT BHU, who's also a Mahant at Sankat Mochan Hanuman Mandir at Tulsi Ghat. Then Wildlife Institute of India's officials, and two German tourists. So I also have it on the slide. These are the places these are the ghats that I visited. Yeah, I'll move forward. So the two tales that I talked about, I'll go through the two tales one by one. Tale one. The first tale tells us the government's imagination of Ganga cater to the needs of big vessels of bigger companies. Ganga was declared as National Waterway 1 for the first time in 1982 under the National Waterway Allahabad Haldia stretch of Ganga Bhagirathi Hooghly River Act 1982. However, Ganga in the upper stretches of National Waterway 1 never picked up big time. From 2016 onwards, the time when National Waterways Act came, uh, this current government it started reimagining the use of Ganga as an inland waterway. It said, and I quote, there is an urgent demand for operationalization of the entire National Waterway 1 right up to Allahabad, as many potential shippers have evinced interest to use National Waterway 1 if it is developed with adequate infrastructure that Avli talked about in detail to facilitate navigation by bigger vessels of 1200 to 1500 dead weight tonnage. So from here we understand that the tail one caters to these bigger vessels, right? So in order to achieve this, Jal Marg Vikas Pariyojana (JMVP), a capacity augmentation project on National Waterway 1 was started, and last year a canal roughly 4 to 5 kilometers long, 40 to 45 meters wide, and around 5 meters deep was actually made by dredging on the eastern bank of Ganga in Banaras. So this highly unbelievable pursuit was repeatedly questioned by the locals. However, the government went ahead with it. Eventually, this year, when the rain poured and flood came, it was entirely destroyed. Yeah, this is the slide. And there is another part of tale one, which is the imagination of Ganga for luxury tourism. And I'm specifically talking about Banaras, the stretch of Ganga in Banaras. The government has been pushing for cruise tourism in Banaras and wants to make India a significant player in the global cruise market. It believes that the incoming traffic would be eager, and I like the word traffic here, would be eager for such facilities. In Banaras, there's also plan to introduce hovercraft services soon. So cruise, then the seaplanes that Avli talked about, and hovercraft services are also coming in Banaras. Then this is what we get from the documents, है ना? But there's also a local perspective on the Jal Marg Vikas Pariyojana. All my respondents, and including the BJP associated Ganga Praharis, have a perspective very different from the government. A senior Malla leader, Pramod Majhi ji, said that if Ganga River is parted into two, if river is made to flow through the canal, the government will treat Ganga as their father's property. He said that he lives in fear that if this happens, Kashi ka astatva khatam ho jayega. Then Professor V.N. Mishra said that the entire area where dredging happened is the breathing space of Ganga at the times of floods. He said that if somehow the Ganga is made to flow through that canal, then the quantity and subsequently the velocity of the river will reduce in the western bank. It's the western bank where the city is, where all sort of activities happen, tourism happens, pilgrimage happens. No? So the velocity of the river on that side will reduce, and if the velocity of the river reduces, then there will be heavy sedimentation on the western bank. Furthermore, in this stretch, the natural flow of Ganga is from west to east. So because of these two reasons, there is a huge likelihood that the Ganga will leave its west bank, which means that, I mean, the entire city of Banaras, which lives on the Ghat, will be sort of like, it will have an existential crisis of sorts. And there's a Avli also told, and we all know about it, that there's the major problem with this entire project is with the availability of water. And Anup ji, an activist, said that in summers इतना कम पानी होता है कि मानो पैदल चले जाएंगे. So that's a legit problem there in this stretch. And very interestingly, Jalmarg, this waterways is often compared with uh, roadways and railways. And Professor V.N. Mishra said that we must not think of waterways in competition with railways and roadways, because water is a wholly different, complex, fragile, living entity. And even the Ganga Praharis, who are BJP people, they also think that it's a flop scheme. So this is the local perspective on Jalmar Vikas Pariyojana. This is just a photo of Ganga. Now I come to tale 2. Yeah. So the first tale is this. Tale 2 was introduced in the year 2020 with the title Project Earth Ganga, as Avli also talked about, and it was subtitled as Correcting Imbalances and Connecting People. I repeat, correcting imbalances and connecting people. I'll come to these terms later on also. It proposed that with the objective of boosting socioeconomic development and economic benefit to the farmer, traders, and public living around the Ganga, some activities are going to be undertaken. So some of these activities were like building huts on ghats, then having small jetties, community jetties, building self-help groups, creating ecotourism hubs, and so on. Based on this, it seems that the government recognized the potential imbalance of the tail 1 of the Jalmar Vikas Pariyojana, and it wanted to strengthen the connection of local population with Ganga, Ghat, and livelihood on it. The budget of this project was rupees 746 crore. So amongst all the activities which are undertaken under Project Earth Ganga, I'll focus on the small jetties, the community jetties, and on the changing nature of ghats. So community jetties. Yeah. The government said that small jetties along the Ganga to boost the economic activities at the community level would be set up as part of Project Earth Ganga, and a video made by, so the word economic activities at the community level becomes important here. A video made by the Inland Waterways Authority highlights Kethi for transportation of marigold flowers. And I visited Kethi, and Vallabhacharya ji, who was a senior activist and also one of the panelists in the upcoming session, he told me, and I quote him, being a resident of the village, I can very confidently and responsibly say that not even a single flower, sorry, that not even a single flower has gone through waterways so far. The farmers at Kethi, both owners of land and tillers on others' land, told me that currently flowers go to the city on auto rickshaws, as that is the center. The farmers believe that jetty is of no use to them, as they only sell in the cities. They said that it cannot be transported via ships, as the flower will get spoiled. Kacha sauda hota hai, as I said. So, from what I was told on all the ghats where jetties exist, it has never been used by any trader for transportation. And one of the jetties was also set on fire, but anyway, that's not important here. So if they're not being used for transportation, and if they're not being used by local communities, business communities, then how are they being used becomes an important question. So all my respondents told me that currently jetty is being used as a selfie point primarily. One Ganga Prahari leader said that it is the best place for selfie. Once on jetty, everywhere there is water, as if हम गंगा माई में हैं. Look अच्छा आएगा, photo viral होगा. So this is what the jetty is being used for primarily. Furthermore, because हम गंगा माई में हैं, one is so inside the river, it is also being used by people to commit suicide. And the Mallas find it, like who are generally the ones who are saving people, they find it difficult to immediately respond and save those who are attempting suicide. Now, then I mean, it becomes very evident that jetty would be used by should be used by boatmen as well. So, on all the ghats, only two boatmen told me that they use jetty for letting people to board and unboard their boats. However, one of them, Durga Sahani ji, a senior Malla leader at Rajghat, said, and I quote him, jetty is being put in those ghats which have tourism potential. Eventually, the crews will take over all those ghats. However, they are putting jetties right now so that in 1 2 years, the jetties find acceptance. Once the cruise comes, we will be asked to move aside. That was the reason why we fought against jetty in Assi Ghat. As earlier, they had put it on Ravidas Ghat, saying that they will remove it in 2 months and shift to Samne Ghat. However, it is still at Ravidas Ghat. In short, what he's saying is that once jetties are established on the pretext that locals are going to use it, the acceptance of it will be there. And then once the cruise comes up, jetties will remain, but the local boat people are going to be removed from the ghats.
Yogesh, last 2 minutes, please.
So this is the condition of jetty at Samne Ghat. This is another jetty at Markande Mahadev Ghat. Next, I come to nature of ghats. So everyone told me that all the activists and the Babas, they say that the ghat is primarily a spiritual, religious, peaceful place, and people would come there, spend time, pray, and take bath and leave. Along with that, there's another essential component on these ghats, which is the use of the Ganga by Mallas for boating and fishing, which makes it important to highlight the usage of Ganga for economic activities. Jagriti Rahi, a senior activist from Sarva Seva Sangh, told me that the economic activity on Ghat is very intricately connected, from the mala, diya seller to wood coolie to boatman to vendors selling food stuff and chai to clothes sellers to panda and more. It is a very deep traditional nexus. Yeah. And uh, yeah, because I've list. So what we notice currently in Banaras is that the nature of Ghat is changing. And since some years, the Ghats of Banaras have been witnessing rampant changes. It is important to note that these changes are not only infrastructural, but have deeper socio-economic and environmental impacts. One could also argue that the very essential nature of the Ghats is changing. Professor V.N. Mishra said, and I quote, if you only see Ghat as a tourist place, then you will only see its commercial nature. And this is what is happening in Banaras. The Ghats and the life on them is being imagined and designed in a way as to make them centers for tourism alone. Laser light shows, loud music, and other unique things have become the new normal to attract tourists. In all this, the Prachinta and Parampara of Banaras is under threat, and Pramod Majhi, a senior Malla leader, believes that people come to Banaras for that very reason. A, a first-time visitor to Banaras from Germany, Anna and Sophia, visiting Kashi Vishwanath corridor after being to some other alleys, ghats, and temples which are centuries old, thought that the Kashi Vishwanath compound was neutral and almost dead. They found it very surprising and shocking. Anna said, I would describe it that it was lacking life and soul in a way. It was like a mall. Then another central element of Ghat boating was banned for more than 3 months this year. The Mallas told me that this is the longest it has been banned. In a community meeting, the Malla leader said that there is ulterior motive of the government for this ban, which is to establish the legitimacy and business of luxury cruise. When the first cruise came, they protested against it. The government, including the CM of UP, promised that no new cruise will come. However, gradually the government has allowed for 4 cruises. The Mallas think that it is critical time for them. If they do not come together now, then they might be thrown from the ghat itself. Then similarly, another,
we need to conclude soon.
yeah. I just have like one more slide after this.
Yeah.
Then similarly, residents and vendors think that it is not Ganga Safai Abhiyan, but rather Ghat Safai Abhiyan, as hundreds of families have been removed from Khidkiya Ghat and Raj Ghat to build the Namo Ghat, which also has a helipad. Then an entire fish market from the Dashashwamedh Ghat was removed to build the Dashashwamedh Bhavan. And which makes me question, which makes me put the question which Partha Chatterjee put in 2003 for Indian cities, that are the Banaras Ghats becoming bourgeoisies at last? And this is a photo of Namo Ghat, where people like come for tourism purpose. This is the expansion of it which is happening, and yeah, there's going to be an open air theater also. These are the boatmen who have been banned. This is the Dashashwamedh Bhavan. This is Kashi Vishwanath corridor.
Thanks, Yogesh. We need to wrap up now.
Okay, I think I'll just briefly
We are really out of time. Just so last half a minute, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Just last.
So what we understand is that the intricate connectedness with that existed on the Ghats of Banaras is being broken. The people who were already connected with the Ghats and the sort of a livelihood around it, they are being removed. So the connecting people, the project of the government seems like a disguise. And what is happening instead on the Ghats is that people who already have connection with the government, they are being favored. The cronies of the government, they are being benefited in these projects that are coming up. And the Allahabad High Court recently said that it was Clean Ganga Mission was just the money distribution mechanism. It's a money distribution machine. And likewise, the tent city which is proposed is also being made by developers from Gujarat. So the two tales, can they be told together? Are they being told together? No. Like I've given evidences for it. Tale one, people tell me it's for political and economic advantage. Tale two, Jagriti Di said that it is ut ke muh mein jeera. So definitely the two tales are not being told together, but whether they can be told together, I have some suggestions which came from the ground, but anyway, I'll skip the slide.
Yeah, possibly we can have it in the discussions when we start off. It will be good to have some of that in discussions also.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. It was a fantastic presentation to actually understand what the people on the ground are saying. And as usual, the ground reality is never a uniform reality. It has its own complexities, which is brought out very wonderfully by. Also, we were very fascinated to see Namo Ghat. Carrying on with this, I think it is a good connection from here. Again, we go to Dashashwamedh Ghat and we go to Prithvinath Sahaniji, who's a senior leader of the Mallas from Dashashwamedh Ghat, who can share his views with us. I believe will help us translate if need be. So can we start off with Prithvinath Singh ji?
जी, हम पृथ्वीनाथ साहनी बोल रहे हैं।
जी सर, बताइए सर। हम सबको सुनना है आपकी स्टोरी बहुत, लेकिन अब प्रॉब्लम ये है कि सिर्फ 10 मिनट है, 10 से थोड़ा कम ही टाइम है।
10 मिनट हम ही बोलेंगे।
जी।
सबको नमस्कार, योगेश जी को नमस्कार। और हमारी माँ गंगा के ऊपर पहला माँ गंगा मेरी माँ है और हमारा मालिक है। गंगा के ऊपर जो भी काम करता है वो नौकर बन के ही काम कर सकता है, उसका मालिक कोई नहीं बन सकता है। गंगा अपना एक कानून है, गंगा का, रिवर का अपना कानून है। उस कानून के तहत हमको काम करना है, उसी के तहत हमको रहना है। कोई भी सरकार गंगा का मालिक नहीं बन सकता है और स्वयं में हम लोग उन्हीं के तहत काम करते आते हैं, क्योंकि 12 मंथ होते हैं, गंगा का परिवर्तन होता रहता है। हर रोज एक गंगा हमें मालिक इसलिए कहते हैं कि चैलेंज देती है। हर रोज एक नया सीख देती है। उसके साथ किस तरह का हमको रहना है, वो जो तरीके से हमको बिहेव करती उसी तरीके से हमको चलना पड़ता है। जैसे जाड़ा में अलग तरीके से जीना है, बरसात में अलग तरीके से जीना है, गर्मी में अलग तरीके से जीना है। तो जो गंगा पे आज सरकार क्रूज चलाने की बात कर रही है, और गंगा में जो कलकत्ता से लेके, और ये बोला जाता है कलकत्ता से लेके इलाहाबाद तक मालवाहक चलाना चाह रही है। हमें मालवाहक से कोई ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं है, बिल्कुल गंगा पे मालवाहक कभी भी सक्सेस नहीं होगा, क्योंकि ये पहाड़ से निकलती है गंगा ऊपर से, और समुंदर के तरफ ढलान है, और ये कितना ही ड्रेजिंग करके जो मालवाहक को चलाने का कोशिश करेंगे कभी भी सक्सेस नहीं होंगे, क्योंकि 4 महीना सिर्फ चला पाएंगे बरसात के समय। जाड़ा गर्मी में कभी भी नहीं चला पाएंगे, क्योंकि गंगा अपना स्वरूप हमेशा बनाती रहती है, अपना बिगाड़ती रहती है, और उस स्वरूप के तहत ही उसमें नाव वाले चलते हैं, जीते हैं, रहते हैं, संघर्ष करते हैं। और हमेशा ये कभी भी सक्सेस इसलिए नहीं होंगे कि क्योंकि जब ड्रेजिंग करेंगे तो 1 साल ही वो बोट को चला पाएंगे, दूसरे साल फिर बाढ़ आएगी, फिर गंगा अपना रेत डालेगी, बालू डालेगी, उसे पाट देगी। मल्लार समाज आज तक कभी कलकत्ता से लेकर इलाहाबाद तक क्यों नहीं नाव चला पाया? इसका सबसे बड़ा कारण यह है कि बीच बीच में 20-20 किलोमीटर तक गंगा अपने हर मल्लार समाज को नाव चलाने का इजाजत देती है। 20 किलोमीटर बाद फिर बीच में एक ऐसा टीला उठा देती है जिसमें कमर भर पानी हो जाता है, जांग भर पानी हो जाता है, और हम कलकत्ता तक नहीं जा सकते, सिर्फ बरसात के महीने में ही जा सकते हैं। जो गंगा के ऊपर जितने वैज्ञानिक, जितने सरकार के मानदंड लोग हैं, जो पैसा खाने वाले इंजीनियर है, सरकार को गुमराह करके पैसा खाती है, नया नया प्रोजेक्ट लाती है। जैसे ड्रेजिंग किया, ड्रेजिंग करने से वो सरकार का तो पैसा खा लिया, अपना जेब भर लिया, बिल्कुल क्या नुकसान होगा, क्या फायदा, उसको क्या पता है। फिर गंगा जब बाढ़ आई तो फिर गंगा अपने उसको भर दी, उसको खत्म कर दी। तो ये चीज है। और दूसरी चीज ये है कि मल्लार समाज को जो क्रूज चला रहे हैं, काशी को मल्ला, पंडा, डोम, 3 जाति से काशी का नाम है। काशी को 3 ही जाति सींचा है, मल्ला, पंडा, डोम, और ये फक्कर नगरी है काशी। इसको मल्ला, पंडा, डोम ने ही बनाया है। पंडा जो है पिंडदान कराता है, अस्थि विसर्जन का पूजन कराता है, मल्ला अस्थि विसर्जन करता है। और जो डोम जो है, काशी में जितने मरने वाले आते हैं, मुक्ति पाने के लिए आते हैं, उनको लाश जलाती है, मुर्दा फूकती है, और उसमें विसर्जित कर देती है। एक चीज और हम कहना चाहते हैं, जो हमारे समाज में, हमारे देश में गंगा को प्रदूषण क्यों हो रहा है, और बहुत चीजें हैं। डेड बॉडी से भी प्रदूषण हो रहा है, जलाने से भी, कि डेड बॉडी जलता है तो उससे जो है वायु प्रदूषण होता है, और उसका राख जो गंगा में छोड़ते हैं उससे गंगा की गंदगी बढ़ती है। उसमें से जो मांस होता है वो भी फेंक देते हैं, उससे भी गंदगी बढ़ती है। रही बात की मल्ला, पंडा, डोम ही बनारस को सींचे है। आज जो है मल्ला समाज जो है इतना बिजनेस क्यों बढ़ा? मल्ला समाज के व्यवहार से, पंडा समाज के व्यवहार से, डोम के व्यवहार से आज बनारस विकसित होते चला गया। जब आज विकसित हो गया तो इसमें सरकार द्वारा हम लोग सिर्फ माँ गंगा को अपना मालिक मानते हैं, और सबको पूरे जोर के साथ, पूरे ईमानदारी के साथ जवाब देते हैं। किसी का तेलबाजी नहीं करते, किसी सरकार का गलत बात को नहीं मानते, क्योंकि हम लोग गंगा पे वर्क करते हैं। गंगा हमारी मालिक। हम बताते हैं कि आप जो बता रहे हैं, हमको राय दे रहे हैं, गलत गलत बात बता के हमको भटका कर, हमको सोचते हैं कि हम इसको बहका के हम पैसा ही कमा ले गंगा में, तो हम नहीं बताएंगे, क्योंकि गंगा मालिक है। और गंगा के हिसाब से हमें बरसात में कैसे रहना है, कैसे गर्मी में रहना है, कैसे जाड़ा में रहना है। मल्लाह पहले प्रकृति से लड़ते लड़ते काला हो जाता है, और नदी में रहने वाला व्यक्ति जब तक वो काला नहीं होगा तब तक नदी का तोड़ नहीं जानेगा। और नदी में संघर्ष करना, उसका भय निकलना, जब से हम नदी पूरी जिंदगी बचपन से उसमें खपाए हैं, तब आज हम बोटिंग का बिजनेस कर पा रहे हैं। नया आदमी कितना ही सरकारी आदमी तंत्र आते हैं, वो पहले लाइफ जैकेट से बैठते हैं, वो कभी बिना सुरक्षा के नाव पर घूम नहीं सकते, उनको डर है। बिल्कुल मल्लाह समाज समुंदर में हो चाहे नदी में है, उनके साथ इतना कनेक्टेड हो जाता है कि वो जिंदगी भर बिना लाइफ जैकेट से रहता है। रही बात की मल्लाह समाज को बर्बाद करने के लिए गंगा में क्रूज को लाया गया, क्योंकि मल्लाह समाज लड़ाकू समाज है। वो इस बात को जानता है कि गंगा को हम, काशी को हम सींचे हैं। आज इतना बिजनेस उतर रही है तो सिर्फ मल्लाह समाज के वजह से, पंडा समाज के, डोम के समाज की वजह से चल रही। आज पूरे वर्ल्ड में, पूरे सरकार के दिमाग में होगा कि काशी में हम क्रूज डाल दें, क्रूज डाल देंगे, डालते जा रहे हैं। इससे समाज को हमको खत्म करने के लिए वो तत्पर है कि काशी में क्रूज डाल दो, जटी लगा दो, जिससे कि हम बिजनेस करें। आज 100-200 क्रूज आ जाएंगे तो मल्लाह समाज तो खत्म हो जाएगा, उनकी वोट खत्म हो जाएगा। जिसने काशी को सींचा है उस समाज को खत्म करने के ये गेम चला रहे हैं। और मल्लाह समाज का आज जो इतिहास है, जो हम लोग सदियों से कम हर रोज, हर साल 100 आदमी को पुल पर से कूदते हुए आदमी कूदते हैं, जो सुसाइड के लिए कूद जाते हैं, उनकी जान को बचाते हैं। मछली मारते रहते हैं, उनके जान को बचाते हैं। हर रोज गंगा में डूबने वाले को लोग को बचाते हैं। आज तक पूरा इतिहास गवाह है, कोई भी हमको प्रधानमंत्री या राष्ट्रपति आज तक कोई पदक नहीं दिया। छोटा सा कोई काम कर देता है उसको पदक दे दिया जाता है, उसको नवाजा जाता है। बिल्कुल हम लोग इतना जान को बचाते हैं निस्वार्थ भाव से, क्योंकि हमको ये पता है कि जीव को बचाना सबसे बड़ा पुण्य है। इसलिए अपने जान के, अपने मोबाइल को देखते हुए भी, मोबाइल खराब हो जाता है 20-20 हजार का, बिल्कुल हमारे सामने कोई अगर डूबता है तो मैं उसे पुनः कूद के बचाता हूँ, उसके जान का, प्राण का रक्षा करता हूँ, उसको आशीर्वाद हमको देता है। यही हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी चीज है। और समाज
सिद्धार्थ,
तो मल्लाह समाज को और पूरा सरकार मिलकर चाह रहा है कि अब खत्म करे, क्योंकि हमारा समाज एक ईमानदार समाज है और जल का एक अलग ज्ञान है। हम ऊपर के ज्ञान को नहीं मानते हैं, क्योंकि माँ गंगा
सहानी सर,
हमको ज्ञान
2
देती है,
मिनट है।
हमको बताती है। जी जी बोलिए।
2 मिनट है बाकी, आप प्लीज।
माँ गंगा के चलते ही हमारा जीवन है। माँ गंगा मेरी मालिक है, हम बार बार यही कहेंगे। माँ गंगा के हिसाब से जो नहीं चलेगा बर्बाद हो जाएगा। और एजिंग कर रहे हैं, जो क्रूज चलाने की बात कर रहे हैं, जो सी पे प्लेन चलाने की बात कर रहे हैं, गंगा में ज्यादा भीड़ बनारस में कर देंगे तो फक्कड़पन काशी, धार्मिक नगरी काशी खत्म हो जाएगी। क्योंकि काशी को गोवा बना देंगे, जो पूरे विश्व में विख्यात है कि महागुरु काशी, पाप धोने वाली काशी। तो ये सिर्फ मल्लाह पंडा डोम के वजह से, गंगा पूजैया करना, उस पार में स्नान करा के लोगों को शांति का भाव दिलाना, आत्मिक शांति दिलाना और लोगों को तफरी कराना। जो काशी में क्यों लोग आते हैं, जो आध्यात्मिक चेतना में आते हैं, क्योंकि पूरे वर्ल्ड से जब उनका दिमाग खराब हो जाता है काम कम करते करते, तो काशी में गंगा में स्नान करते हैं और गंगा का छटा देखते हैं, घाट का छटा देखते हैं। और कभी भी जटी भी सक्सेस नहीं है। जटी इसलिए सक्सेस नहीं कि 12 महीना का रूप बदलता रहता है, पानी बढ़ता है, घटता है, सिचुएशन बदलता रहता है। हर घाट पे नाव रखने का भी अपना एक तरीका है, एक घाट का अपना क्षमता है। एक घाट में सिर्फ 10 नाव 15 नाव रखा जा सकता है। अगर काशी में 84 घाट है, 88 घाट है, अगर इसमें घाट में अगर 15 नाव से ज्यादा हो जाएंगी तो ओवरलोड हो जाएगा। गंगा का घाट पूरा अगर बोट और क्रूज से पटा जाएंगे तो फिर घूमने का मजा क्या रह जाएगा।
बिल्कुल सहानी जी, बहुत बहुत आपने मौलिक विचार रखे हैं हमारे सामने। मुझे लगता है कि जो आगे की बातचीत है वो हम डिस्कशन में कर सकते हैं, जहाँ पे लोग आपको सवाल पूछ सकते हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि हम वेरी सॉरी, हमको बहुत आपको सुनने की बहुत ज्यादा इच्छा है लेकिन टाइम कम है। तो
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा, नमस्ते, प्रणाम।
Namaste. Namaste ji. So thank you so much. Thank you all the panelists. So do we need to have this in English? I think we have all sort of got the gist of what he said so succinctly and eloquently. So so if there are any specific questions, then only then we'll get into the specifics. Or else we'll start with the question and answer sessions, because there have been a number of questions. People are interested in discussions. There's one thing I would like to say, that exactly the same thing that Prithvinath ji said was said by someone about 60 years back. Advait Malla Burman, who was also a Malla community member from Bengal, had talked about the same thing, about knowing the river's pulse, which is what he said right now also, that the Mallas or the river people know the river's pulse. They know about sedimentation, they know about siltation, they know when the river is going to change. Not paying attention to their knowledge can be a blunder. With this, I think we should start off with the question and answers. There's been a lot of discussions and interest in the audience. So I think we'll start with some questions for Avli first. As it goes. So, Avli, there's a question for you from
Sorry,
Jordi.
1 second,
Siddharth,
Parinita.
yes.
Can we
Sorry,
have
yes.
all the panelists switch on their videos? I can put
Yes.
all of them on screen.
Right.
Panelists, आप सभी अगर अपना वीडियो ऑन कर सकें, स्वरूपदा, जॉन, अगर आप कर सकें, मैं आपको स्क्रीन पे ऐड कर देता हूँ.
जॉन सर वीडियो ऑन ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമോ?
I think we can start. Parinita, John sir का वीडियो ऑन होते ही मैं उनको स्क्रीन पे ऐड कर दूंगा.
Bilkul. So we'll start with in the order of the presentations. Also, you can see all the questions in the Q&A box. So if someone wants to respond to it, they can. The problem is we are really short of time. So first question is for Avli. Is there any environmental safeguard at all in any of the India-Bangladesh waterways agreements? This is from Joydeep. Avli, would you like to take it?
Hi, I have responded in the Q&A section itself, but
Okay.
I'll just very briefly mention that in the
Right.
protocol routes agreement itself, there is no this thing about the environment safeguard aspect. In fact, there is an NGT case which is dealing with the fly ash barges which capsized in the river in the Indo-Bangladesh protocol route. And I'll discuss more of it in the session 4 tomorrow, but to just put it very briefly, even the expert committee appointed by the NGT, they recommended that an environment impact assessment should be made a must for the for these waterways, especially for the ones which are in the vicinity of Sundarbans, given the eco-sensitive nature of the whole region. But that's not been acknowledged, and even the CRZ aspect of the Sundarban waterways, even that's not being followed. There is no public document which suggests that any such steps are being taken.
Right. So in connection with this question is also a question, is the lighting inside the river along Sundarbans also exempt from the EIA?
The whole project is exempted. And light is something which we don't even see as something which is addressed in the EIA documents. Right. So, yeah.
Right, that's just very shocking. I think the last question for Avli would be, if citizens want to retain the use of rivers versus not having commercial use, does the National Waterways Act or any act consider this? I think it's evident, but we'd like to hear from you.
I seriously don't know like how to answer that question, to be very honest. But I think the main thing is that once a river is declared as a national waterway, the whole sort of regulation and the control aspect of it goes with the central government, which is the main aspect, which is the main reason why so many of the states actually objected to so many rivers being converted into this. So I think we need to maybe discuss more on this aspect to have a clear answer on this.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Avli. We'll come to Swarupda's presentation. A lot of interest and questions there. I think we'll take a few of the important ones. What is the impact of riverbed sand mining on traditional boats in Hooghly or entire West Bengal?
Sand mining is it's a complicated method in various rivers we are facing now. Like the river in Ojoy and Damodar, those are not a perennial river, so they are dredging those one, and sometimes it's good for the boats which can move on those areas where the water is there. So actually sand mining is also creating those opportunities to cross the river, because of the that area is becoming with water. But in many places in Bengal, in nearby Kolkata, I think it's a serious hazard, because those are the regions, the flow of the river is changing because of the sand mining. So in the west bank of the Ganges, near the Howrah region, in nearby Kolkata, these are the dredging spots, and so the the environment is changing, and still I don't know what will be the fate, but still boats are using the other way, that is the Calcutta side, to move downstream or upstream.
Right. Thank you. One more is there any example of where a panchayat has taken control of the ferries, according to the West Bengal Ferries Act?
Not actually. Actually, those ferries are the auctioned, and interested people would like to participate in the auction, and they, if they get the that order, then they are controlling, and the panchayat is obviously related with them, because they are controlling those ferry systems, but it is the private owner, they are catering the service.
That's right. Also, people are asking for any references on, can you tell us a bit about Boat Museum, or any more references about how do people know about boats in Bengal more?
Yeah, there is one. I have a blog. It's called Nauko Ghar. There are some informations on boat. And in 2014, Dr. Rupen বিশ্বাস built that boat museum. It's called Heritage Boats of Bengal Gallery. It's in the North Calcutta near Kakurgachi. There are 46 boat models, to the scale boat models. So if anybody is interested, they can come to Kolkata and visit those models. Yeah.
I'm interested, I'm coming.
Please welcome.
Thank you. So now this is a question for all of the participants. I think you can pitch in briefly, because I think it's an important question. So is there any, so what are the alternatives, and what can be your suggestions to make IWT appropriate, more sustainable for India? We did understand a bit from your presentation, but if everyone would like to pitch in, like last 30 seconds each. Avli, can we start with you?
Yeah, like it's a very good question actually. So in so many of the regions in India, especially if we are looking at the Northeast or we're looking at Kerala, there is a genuine need of river inland water transport, and these sort of how to make it sustainable is somehow already answered by what Prithvi Nathji said. I think that you have to work with the seasonality, rhythm, and the pulse of the river, and you have to maybe look at the economics in a very different sense. like if you're looking at the long-term sustainability of a project, then you have to make it sustainable in at least the short run, right? So right now, whatever is being sort of pushed, we're not looking at it in the sense of it being sustainable. The big multimodal terminals, they're not being used. So maybe scale down and try to see if there are other things which can work, and also follow the process, maybe follow the process of prior environment impact assessments, follow more sort of wider consultations with the real stakeholders. Maybe if we take into account what Prithviraj here has mentioned and what Swarupda here has mentioned, maybe we'll build a more sort of better policy and sort of guidelines to navigate this aspect.
Yes. Thank you so much, Amli. Mr. John, do you have a quick suggestion, 30 seconds?
John sir, respond ചെയ്യുന്നോ ഇതിന്? Hello? ചോദ്യം മനസ്സിലായോ?
Yeah. Yogesh, we could start with you till the time he sets up.
There is nothing particularly apart from what Avli and Prithviji have already said. I think Prithviji, when I spoke with him for the first time, he put it really beautifully. He said that this is Jal Siksha, which is different from Zameen Siksha. And they have people like me and all of us, we have Zameen Siksha, but we don't have Jal Siksha. So the inclusion of them is a must, like from the beginning itself. It just can't be that, you know, there's some public consultation happening and just for the sake of it, people are being called. And otherwise also, even the Ganga Prahari, who are like BJP people, they also spoke about something called as vocal for local. So I think this is something that needs to be inculcated from the beginning itself, and not just in terms of planning on Ganga, but on the ghats also, the economy around ghats, which is also very intricate. So it's not just, it may not be directly linked with the river, but it's the entire ghat economy which sort of subsumes Ganga also in it. So I think we also need to focus on that, like the entire ghat economy.
Right. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Jal Shiksha, not Zameen Shiksha. It's very true. Absolutely true. So, Rupta, do you have something to share with us? 30 seconds.
Yeah, actually, what I'm looking for the traditional boats. If we know that earlier days, those are the traditional boats which goes from downstream to upstream. But unfortunately, we lost all those, like the Bajras, Baulias, and other boats. Instead of making those mechanized and big boats, we can also use the smaller boats with engines. Those engines has to be very eco-friendly, because nowadays whatever we are using, we are creating noise pollutions and the leakage from the boat, the diesel and petrol. These are just polluting the river. So instead of that one, if we think in eco-friendly machines, or sometimes also the sail, the eco-friendly sail we can use for our boats. It can be a bigger boats. I know the boats which are built in Sundarban regions, it can carry 45,000 bricks. That means it's almost 250 tonnage of capacity. So that kind of huge traditional wooden boats we can use for our water transport.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. John, sir, do you have something to say?
John sir, he wanted to actually say something.
Okay.
I've talked to him on phones. He said he will come.
Okay. Joy, can you paraphrase for him?
I told him actually on phone what is the question. John sir, ചോദിക്കുന്നത് ഇന്നത്തെ നാഷണൽ വാട്ടർവേസിന്റെ ബദലായിട്ട് നമുക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമെന്നാണ്. അവിടുത്തെ ലോക്കൽ ആളുകൾക്കും മറ്റും ഉപകാരമായിട്ട് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ എന്താ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയെന്നാണ് ചോദ്യം. കേട്ടോ, ഒരു മിനിറ്റിനുള്ളിൽ പറയണം.
Joy, you might have to ask him to unmute.
John sir, ഒന്ന് unmute ചെയ്യണോട്ടോ. Is Prithviji want to say something? Let him say. I'll again connect with him.
हाँ बोलिए, बोलिए सर, क्वेश्चन करिए.
You are on mute. Sorry, Parinita, you're on mute.
पृथ्वीनाथ जी, आपका बहुत जबरदस्त प्रेजेंटेशन रहा। 30 सेकंड्स में आप बता सकते हो कि लास्ट सजेशन क्या है आपका, क्या करें गंगा जी के लिए, क्या करें? 30 सेकंड्स।
गंगा जी को अगर आप ठीक से रखना, लोकल व्यक्ति से संपर्क करिए और घाट को ज्यादा बनाइए, घाट को ज्यादा जोड़िए और पुराने चीजों को चलने दीजिए सिस्टम से, और ज्यादा वोट मत बढ़ाइए, नहीं तो गंगा जी में जो प्लास्टिक का क्षेत्र है उसमें अतिक्रमण हो जाएगा, खूबसूरती है खत्म हो जाएगा और परिवहन अंदर नहीं चल सकती है, पूरे गंगा में चैलेंज है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, धन्यवाद सर, धन्यवाद।
I'll just add one more point, which Prithvi ji only told me. Just like we talk about carrying capacity of the river, he said that there should be something like a carrying capacity assessment of ghats also. How much it can sustain, right? So I think that's very important.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very interesting. Joy, do you have something we can say, or we can just?
John sir, unmute ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. He is unmuted. John sir, പറഞ്ഞോളൂ. Oh, he's muted now. Oh God.
I think we are really low on time. I think we should wrap it up here.
I just go ahead and wind. Yeah.
Yes, I think we should wind it up here. Fantastic perspectives from researchers to traditional heritage, people like Swarupda, to people on ground who tell us and who sort of awaken us to the fact that it is not Zameen Shiksha, but Jal Shiksha. I think we are all lacking in it. So all in all, a fantastic panel. I'm very thankful. Sorry, we overshot the time a bit. So we'll conclude the session. Just deep thanks from all of us at IRW and to all the panelists and Avli. Any housekeeping announcements, Siddharth? Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Prarinita. Thank you everyone for the wonderful discussion. I just want to highlight that for everybody who's joined the session now, this Zoom link will be live all through the day. We are taking a small break now. The next session starts at 2 p.m. 1 p.m. Sorry, it starts at 1 p.m. So you can go have some food, refresh, relax, and come back to the same Zoom link. So that we want you to continue this discussion. Stay with us through the day today and tomorrow. Take part in this discussion, but also take your downtime to sort of think about whatever's been said while you come back for the next part. Because I can speak in Hindi also, I will just say this in Hindi as well. अभी हम एक ब्रेक ले रहे हैं 11:30 बजे से 12:30 बजे तक. Okay, I think John sir का mic on है. Joy, should I keep it on? Should I mute him?
No, I think we'll take it later. I think we should wrap it up.
ठीक है. Mute him. ओके, अभी हम एक ब्रेक ले रहे हैं. आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप इस लिंक पे वापस जुड़ें. 1 बजे हमारा अगला सेशन स्टार्ट होगा, सेशन 2 जो है, और हम फेसबुक पे लाइव स्ट्रीम फिर से स्टार्ट करेंगे 1 बजे. सो आई एम होपिंग कि हम आप सभी को वापस 1 बजे सेशन में देखेंगे, जो और उसके बाद 4 बजे एक और सेशन है. तो प्लीज जुड़े रहें, बिकॉज आई थिंक एक बार आप जाते हैं तो आना थोड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग हो सकता है. तो ये लिंक लाइव रहेगा, आप सेम लिंक से वापस ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं आज 1 बजे. So looking forward to all of you, and thank you to all the panelists.